Cold wind scraped the valley. Tasted like iron. Moonlight bled across broken stones. The village slept behind barred doors. No fire dared to burn. They called her empty. They called her cursed. They called her invisible. She walked anyway, bare feet against frozen earth, heart hammering too loud. Every breath tore her throat. The forest watched, branches bent without wind. Leaves whispered her name. A low growl rolled through darkness. Not one. Many. Yellow eyes ignited between trees. She stopped, skin prickling, pulse thudding in her ears. Her shadow stretched too far. Longer than her body. Darker than night. The wolves stepped forward. Silent. Massive. Unafraid. They circled her slowly. Breath steaming in the cold. Paws never touching her shadow. Only guarding it. The ground trembled. A distant bell cracked the silence. Village doors slammed open. Torches flared like frightened hearts. Shouts tore through the air. They saw her. Alone. Surrounded. Ill. Too still. Then her shadow moved. Separately. Rippling like black water. The wolves bowed their heads. The torches went out at once. And from beneath the frozen earth. And from beneath the frozen earth. Something answered. Not a sound. Not a voice. Pressure. Ancient. Unforgiving. The ground split in thin cracks. Black frost crept upward. Crawling across stones. Cross bones. Cross memory. The villagers screamed. Some dropped their torches. Others stumbled back. Fear stank in the air. Bitter. Sharp. Rotting. She did not move. Her breath slowed. Too slow. Her chest barely rose. The wolves pressed closer. Flanks brushing her dress. Bodies forming a living wall. Their fur bristled. Teeth bared toward the village. Not toward her. The crack widened. Earth peeling apart like skin. Cold mist poured out. Thick. Heavy. Alive. It wrapped around her ankles. Climbed her legs. Slithered up her spine. She shivered. Not from cold. From recognition. Her shadow trembled. Stretching. Twisting. Detaching. It rose behind her. Taller than the church tower. Thicker than midnight. Hollow eyes opened within it. No pupils. No reflection. Only depth. The bell rang again. Cracked. Broken. Futile. Horses screamed in distant stables. Windows shattered without touch. The forest leaned inward. Branches clawing the sky. Roots tearing free from soil. The wolves howled as one. A single breath. A single pulse. A single warning. The mist thickened. Faces flickered inside it. Old faces. Forgotten faces. Some weeping. Some smiling. Some silent forever. She felt them brush her skin. Cold fingertips. Whispering names she never knew. Her heartbeat skipped. Stuttered. Returned. Stronger. The villagers fell to their knees. Pleading. Crying. Calling her demon. Calling her mercy. Calling her nothing. She lifted her head. Slowly. Deliberately. Moonlight slid across her face. No fear remained. Only stillness. Only hunger. Her shadow stepped forward. Leaving her body behind. Standing apart. Moving toward the crack. The earth shuddered. Hand pushed up. Ill. Veined. Too large. Fingernails black as tar. Gripping the broken ground. Pulling. Draining. Tearing. The mist roared. not with sound, with presence, with weight, with age older than the valley, older than the wolves, older than the moon itself. The wolves circled faster. Their paws drummed the frozen earth. Rhythmical, relentless, protective. She raised her arms. Not to stop, not to fight, but to welcome. Her shadow bent toward her, merging again, fusing, becoming whole. Pain ripped through her. Invisible, electric, blinding. Her back arched, hair whipping in wind that did not exist. Cracks spiderwebbed beneath her feet, reaching the village, splitting walls, splitting doors, splitting prayers. The hand rose higher, shoulder emerging, then neck, then a face without eyes. Smooth, featureless, endless. The villagers fled, tripping over each other, clawing at frozen ground. No one looked back, except one child, small, barefoot, shaking, watching her with trembling awe. She saw the child. For a heartbeat, only a heartbeat. Her breath caught, her shadow pulsed. The wolves stilled, ears flat, tails lowered. The mist turned toward the child. Not fast, not slow, inevitable. The child screamed, not in terror, in something deeper, something primal, something that cracked the sky. Thunder split the clouds. White light blazed across the valley, blinding, burning, searing. When it faded, the child remained, unharmed, tears frozen on cheeks. But the earth changed. Dark veins pulsed beneath it, like a buried heart. The hand stopped rising, suspended, waiting, listening. She lowered her arms, slowly, trembling. Blood trickled from her palms, black, shimmering, alive. The wolves closed in again, forming a tighter ring, their eyes never leaving the figure in the ground. Her shadow shifted, quieter now, calmer, yet deeper. The mist retreated an inch, then another, coiling around the hand, binding it, not breaking it, not freeing it, holding it between worlds. The bell fell from the church, crashing through the roof. The moon dimmed, a faint red halo bleeding around it. She took one step forward, then another, feet no longer touching earth, hovering just above it. The child whispered her name, a name she never had, a name the valley forgot, a name older than wolves, older than blood, older than the crack itself. The hand trembled, fingers twitching, straining against the mist. Her shadow leaned over her shoulder, breathing behind her, within her, through her. She reached out, palm hovering above the buried face, cold seeping into her bones. The wolves growled low, not in threat, in warning. The mist tightened, the sky split again, but this time, no light came, only darkness, deep, complete, consuming. And beneath the frozen earth, something shifted again, not breaking free, not surrendering, only breathing, low, immense, unhuman. The buried face tilted upward, skin stretching like ancient stone, cracking, peeling, reforming. The mist wrapped tighter, coiling like chains made of night. Yet the presence pushed back, patient, relentless, inevitable. The valley held its breath. Even the wind stopped moving. Even the wolves grew silent, their fur stiff, their bodies low, muscles trembling under iron will. She hovered higher, bare feet drifting inches above the ground. Black veins glowed faintly beneath her skin, tracing her ankles, climbing her calves, crawling toward her heart. Her shadow loomed behind her, no longer shaped like her, no longer shaped like anything mortal. A towering silhouette, wide shoulders, empty chest, a hollow where a heart should be. The child did not run, did not scream, did not blink. Tears froze solid on soft cheeks, glistening like shards of glass. The child watched her, and the watching felt like judgment. The buried hand clenched, fingers digging deeper into shattered soil. Rocks split beneath its grip. Trees toppled miles away. Rivers froze mid-flow. Birds fell dead from the sky. The wolves stepped forward together, one circle tightening into one living wall. They placed themselves between her and the village, between her and the child, between the world and whatever rose beneath it. She turned her head, not fully, just enough. Her eyes were no longer human, no white, no color, only a shifting darkness that mirrored her shadow. Her breath fogged the air, but the mist swallowed it instantly. The buried face began to form features. Not eyes, not mouth, something else. Holes that devoured light. Curves that twisted perception. A presence that made bones ache. Her heart hammered once. Twice. Then stopped. Then began again. Stronger. Louder. Not her own. The earth throbbed in rhythm with it. Crack. Ulse. Crack. Ulse. Crack. Ulse. The wolves howled again. Not in warning now. In reverence. In dread. In recognition of a force older than them. The mist lifted her higher. Feet leaving the world entirely. Dress fluttering without wind. Hair rising as if underwater. Her shadow stretched toward the buried being. A bridge. Tether. A door half opened. The buried hand reached again. This time not upward, but toward her shadow. Fingers brushing its edge. Not touching. Almost touching. The moment stretched. Thin as glass. Sharp as a blade. Then the sky tore open. Not with light. Not with thunder. With silence. A silence so deep it roared in the skull. The valley collapsed inward. Not physically. Spiritually. Everything leaning toward her. Trees. The stones. The frozen river. Even the moon. The child stepped forward. One small foot. Cracking the ice beneath it. The wolves snarled. Low. Protective. Furious. Yet they did not move to stop the child. As if something commanded stillness. The buried face shifted again. A mouth forming where none should exist. Lips splitting stone. Teeth emerging like broken pillars. It exhaled. A breath colder than death. Sweeping across the valley. Freezing tears mid-fall. Freezing flames into glass. Freezing screams into silence. She lifted both hands. Palms open. Fingers trembling. Black blood dripping in slow, shining drops. Each drop fell. But never reached the ground. Suspended in midair. Hovering. Quivering. Becoming small dark stars. Her shadow bent toward her. Pressing into her back. Merging deeper. Deeper. Until she arched in agony. Spine cracking audibly. Skin splitting along her shoulders. Not bleeding. Not tearing. Changing. The wolves pressed closer. bodies brushing her hovering feet, their warmth somehow reaching her, anchoring her, holding her to the world she nearly left. The buried being spoke, not with sound, with movement, with pressure, with a feeling that crawled inside every mind present. Ancient hunger, endless patience, finality. The mist trembled, its grip loosening for a heartbeat. Just one. The buried hand lunged upward, faster than sight, faster than thought, reaching for her shadow, for the tether between worlds. The wolves exploded into motion, all at once, leaping toward the hand, not attacking, blocking, their bodies colliding with nothing visible. Yet something struck them back, throwing them across the valley, yelps tearing the silence. He screamed, not with her voice, with the sky, with the earth, with the crack itself. The hovering drops of black blood flared, becoming burning orbs of darkness, spinning around her in a violent ring. Her shadow stretched thinner, sharper, piercing into the buried face. The mist shrieked, a sound that was not sound, a wound opening in reality. The child fell to knees, hands clutching frozen ground, whispering again, that forgotten name, that impossible name, that name that made the wolves whimper, that made the moon bleed darker red. The buried being recoiled, just slightly, just enough. Cracks rippled across its forming face. The hand faltered, fingers curling inward. The earth shook, harder, wilder. Buildings collapsed in the village, roofs caving in, church walls splitting. Yet the wolves stood again, bruised, bleeding, unyielding. They formed their circle once more, closer than before, bodies pressed tight together, a living barricade of teeth and will. She lowered her hands, slowly, pain etched across her altered face. Yet something else burned beneath it. Power. Terrible. Unforgiving. Beautiful. Her shadow detached again, rising higher than the highest peak, blotting out half the sky. The hovering black orbs shot forward, striking the buried hand, not exploding, imploding, collapsing inward with silent force. The hand jerked back, cracks spreading up the arm, stone flaking into ash. The buried face twisted, not in pain, in fury, in recognition of defiance. The mist surged upward, a towering wall of darkness, rushing toward her, toward the wolves, toward the child. She stepped forward, still hovering, still changed, still not human. Her shadow moved with her, interlocking, overlapping, becoming one impossible shape. She extended a single finger, pointing not at the buried being, not at the village, at the crack in the earth. The mist slammed into an invisible barrier, shattering like glass, scattering across the valley in screaming fragments. The wolves howled triumph and terror together. The child lifted their head, eyes wide, unblinking, unbroken. The buried being stopped, frozen halfway between worlds, hand suspended, face half-formed, breath trapped. The earth stilled, too still, wrongly still. Her black blood no longer dripped, floated, shimmered, then seeped back into her skin. Her shadow pulsed once, twice, then rippled outward, spreading across the valley floor, touching every stone, every root, every frozen corpse of every bird. every trembling heart still alive. The wolves lowered their heads, not in submission, in acknowledgement. The child rose to their feet, slowly, unsteady, yet drawn forward, toward her, toward the crack, toward the impossible thing waiting beneath. She turned fully now, looking directly at the child, for the first time, and something cracked inside her. Not the earth, not her body, something deeper, older, lonelier. The buried being stirred again, this time quieter, more deliberate. The hand shifted position, no longer reaching for her, reaching for the child. The mist coiled around the fingers, guiding, inviting, claiming. The wolves snarled, ferocious, desperate, but they did not break formation. She hesitated, just a fraction of a second, just enough. The child took another step, barefoot touching her spreading shadow. The shadow did not burn, did not freeze. It welcomed. It wrapped around the child's ankle, gently, tenderly, terrifyingly. The buried hand descended, closer, closer, close enough that the air between them screamed. And beneath the frozen earth, and beneath the frozen earth, the buried being changed again, not rising, not retreating, only shifting its weight between worlds. The hand hovered inches from the child, fingers trembling like fractured mountains. Mist curled around the child's ankle, thin, tough, deceptive. The child did not pull away, did not cry, did not breathe. Their small chests stilled in perfect silence. The wolves trembled, low whines vibrating through their ribs. Yet their circle did not break. Their bodies pressed tighter together, a living wall of bone and fur, shielding what little humanity remained. She moved, slowly, painfully, every inch ripping something inside her. Her hovering feet drifted toward the child. Her shadow stretched with her, dragging across the valley like a black tide. The mist recoiled at her approach, hissing, twisting, coiling back toward the buried hand. The buried face tilted again, not toward her, toward the child. A silent claim, patient promise, a hunger that had waited centuries. Her breath came ragged now, not human breath, not beast breath, something in between. Black veins pulsed brighter beneath her skin, crawling across her neck, across her jaw, toward her eyes. The child looked up at her, tears no longer frozen, sliding down pale cheeks, shimmering like liquid glass. Their lips parted, that ancient name forming again, a name that made the sky ache, a name that made the wolves bare their teeth, a name that made the buried being still. For a heartbeat, only a heartbeat, she reached out, hand trembling in the cold air, fingers hovering above the child's hair. The mist surged upward, snapping like a living thing, trying to wrap around her wrist. Her shadow snapped in response, slashing through the mist, cutting it apart into screaming fragments. The buried hand slammed against the edge of the crack, earth exploding outward in shattered slabs, trees uprooting in the distance, the church collapsing completely into dust. The wolves planted their paws, claws digging into frozen ground, holding the valley together by sheer will. She touched the child, just the tips of her fingers, cold like winter, warm like blood, something impossible between them. The child gasped, not in fear, In recognition, their small body shuddered, a pulse traveling from her hand into their chest. The buried being roared, not aloud, but the ground screamed in answer. Cracks spreading like lightning across the valley floor, racing toward the village, toward the forest, toward the mountains beyond. The mist lunged again, thicker now, darker, heavier. It slammed against an invisible barrier around her and the child, splintering into jagged shards of night. Her shadow towered higher, bending over them like a guardian, like a crown, like a curse. The wolves howled in defiance, their voices tearing through the silence, echoing against the mountains, rolling across frozen fields, calling something older than them, something listening, somewhere. The buried face twisted, cracks deepening across its surface. The mouth opened wider, too wide, teeth shifting into something that was not teeth. A void breathing cold into the world. The child trembled in her grip, small fingers clutching at her torn dress, not begging, not pleading, trusting, terrifyingly trusting. She closed her eyes, black blood seeping from their corners, running down her cheeks like inked tears. Her shadow coiled tighter around the child, wrapping their body in darkness that did not harm, only held, only claimed, only protected. The buried hand surged forward again, faster than before, fingers slicing through the air toward the child. The wolves leapt as one, bodies colliding with nothing visible, thrown back once more in violent arcs, yelps ripping from their throats, bones cracking against frozen stone. Still they rose, bruised, bleeding, unbroken. The mist wrapped around the buried arm, guiding it, strengthening it, pulling it upward with terrible purpose. She lifted her other hand, palm facing the crack, black blood dripping freely now, each drop freezing midair, spinning, burning, becoming small dark suns. The sky above split open again, but this time the red halo around the moon bled downward, staining clouds like fresh wounds. The child whispered the name louder, clearer, stronger. The valley answered, wind tearing through the trees, roots bursting from the ground, ice shattering across the river. The wolves stilled, ears flat, eyes locked on her, not in fear, in devotion. The buried being hesitated, just slightly, a tremor passing through its half-formed body. The hand faltered, the mist thinned, the earth stopped shaking. For a moment, fragile, impossible, unnatural moment. She stepped between the child and the hand, body no longer hers, shadow no longer hers. Everything about her torn between woman and abyss. The hovering black orbs rushed forward, slamming into the buried arm, not destroying, not repelling, marking, burning dark symbols across its stone-like skin, symbols older than language, older than the wolves, older than the valley itself. The buried being recoiled, the hand jerked back, cracks racing up the arm like lightning. The mist screamed, a sound that scraped the inside of every mind. The wolves pressed closer, forming a tighter circle around her and the child, their bodies trembling, yet immovable. She turned her head again, looking not at the child, not at the wolves, but down into the crack, into the darkness that breathed beneath the world. Her shadow stretched downward, piercing into that abyss. Tether. Chain. Challenge. The buried face leaned upward. Features warping. Changing. Becoming something almost human. Almost pleading. Almost furious. The child tightened their grip on her dress. Small heartbeat pounding against her side. Loud. Fragile. Alive. The mist coiled one last time. Rising like a tidal wave of night. Towering over the valley. Blotting out the moon. Blotting out the stars. Blotting out everything. She lifted both hands. Blood shining like wet obsidian. Her shadow rose with her, splitting the sky in two. The wolves howled again, not in fear, not in warning, in something that sounded like prayer. The buried hand surged. The mist crashed. The child screamed that ancient name. And beneath the frozen earth, and beneath the frozen earth, everything stilled. Not violently, not suddenly, but gently, like a storm remembering calm. The buried hand stopped in midair, fingers trembling once, then resting. The mist froze, not in ice, but in silence, hovering like breath that forgot to move. Her shadow loosened, slowly, softening at the edges, no longer jagged, no longer devouring, no longer towering over the sky. It folded inward, drifting back toward her like falling ash. The black veins beneath her skin faded, one by one, slipping away like dying stars at dawn. Her feet touched the ground again. Quietly, naturally, as if she had always belonged there. The wolves lowered their heads, not in defeat, not in surrender, but in quiet reverence. Their bodies relaxed, shoulders easing, breath steadying. Their circle remained, but it felt like protection, not battle. The buried face beneath the earth changed. Cracks smoothing, harsh lines softening, the monstrous presence dissolving into something older, quieter, deeper. The hand slowly sank back into the soil, not dragged, not forced, simply returning, like a tide flowing back to sea. The crack in the ground began to close, stone knitting to stone. Frost retreating into hidden veins. Darkness withdrawing into the deep places where it belonged. The mist drifted away. Thin threads unraveling into cold night air. No screams. No wrath. Only fading whispers. Carried by a wind that smelled like rain. The child trembled in her arms. Small chest rising and falling again. Warm. Fragile, human. She looked down at them, for the first time with eyes that were hers. Not abyss, not shadow, just a woman standing beneath the moon. Tears welled, clear, unstained, alive. They slid down her cheeks and fell to the ground, where they shimmered once, then vanished into the earth. The wolves stepped closer. One by one, not snarling, not growling, but brushing their warm flanks against her legs, grounding her, reminding her of breath, of heartbeat, of life. She released the child slowly, carefully, as if setting down something sacred. The child reached for her hand, small fingers wrapping around hers, unafraid, unbroken. Unharmed. The sky shifted above them. The red halo around the moon bled away, returning to silver light. Tough, clean, unaccusing. Clouds parted like drawn curtains. Stars trembling back into existence. The valley exhaled. Trees straightened. Ice loosened its grip on the river. Distant birds stirred in their nests. Life remembered how to move. From the distant village, a single light flickered. Then another. Then another. Not torches of fear, but humble lamps of survivors. Doors opened slowly, cautiously, silently. The wolves turned their gaze toward the village. Not threatening, not welcoming, simply watching. As guardians rather than hunters. She looked toward the closed crack in the earth, where the ancient thing slept again. Not defeated, not freed, simply balanced. Her shadow lay at her feet now, normal in shape, gentle in darkness, moving only when she moved. No longer hungry, no longer separate, no longer a doorway. She knelt beside the child, placing a hand over their small heart, feeling its steady rhythm. Real, simple, precious. The child smiled, not with innocence alone, but with understanding older than their years. They spoke no more of the ancient name. They did not need to. The wolves began to disperse, slipping back into the forest like fading smoke. Silent, majestic, unseen once more, yet always there. The first light of dawn touched the horizon, pale gold brushing the edges of the mountains, warming the frozen valley, softening the scars of the night. She rose, taking the child's hand. Two small shadows stretching long across the ground, side by side. The crack behind them sealed completely, leaving no wound, only a faint line in the stone, like a memory rather than a scar. The wind passed through the valley, not cutting, not biting, but carrying a quiet promise. That darkness remained below, that wolves still watched. That power still slept. Yet the night had chosen mercy, and so had she. They walked together toward the waking village, low, unhurried, unafraid, and behind them, where earth met sky, where shadow met light, the wolves faded into the trees, guarding not with teeth, but with presence. As dawn painted the world anew,